morning or this afternoon or whenever it is in the world for you. What it would be really interesting from my perspective is if you put in the text chat where you are from, what part of the world you're from, so maybe your city and your country would be really good to see where people are from, and it will give me an idea as to what time of the day it might be. Oh, it's beautiful, it's so global and exciting in terms of the work that Pukunui and Julian's team put in. Adjust my audio. Too loud? Am I? So, Siggy, am I too loud or not loud enough? Julian, can you give me any indication?
Alison, I'm hearing
beautiful.
Depends on all the other participants, but I can hear you loud and clear, no problems, and you're too fuzzy.
A bit echoey. Oh, fingers crossed. So that's the joys of technology, as those of us who've been involved in it for a little while know that it never always runs smoothly, and you're often at the whim of the technology gods. So let's fingers crossed, and it all goes well from here. I feel like I'm a bit like the naughty kid who's just handed up their homework late when I got to do to the session today. I didn't realise that there was a bit to prepare from my perspective. I'm so used to just walking in and going with the flow, so apologies for those late minute technical hiccups with the PowerPoint, now the PDF. But so lovely to see people from all around the world, and lovely to see that people are interested in ePortfolios. And what I might do also then, while you're being so interactive, if you can put your hands up, so you've got the tools at the top of the screen there. If you can raise your hand if you've been involved in ePortfolios, you're involved in ePortfolios in some way, so whether you're a student or whether you're delivering or you're part of a community, it would be great to see how many people in the room may be involved in ePortfolios, and those of us that are interested in finding out a little bit more about them. So Ziggy, yes, I was lucky enough to be part of your multitasking in your session before, so that was excellent, the work that you're doing with it. So Cheryl's a bit curious in terms of what ePortfolios are or what they can do. I've come very much from the perspective that perhaps you've got some background understanding of an ePortfolio, so I don't have any background stuff. It's more about how is it being used as a collaborative learning space. Excellent. I can see some people putting some stuff in there. Okay, I'm going to just move on to the... Sorry, let me introduce myself. My name's Alison Miller. I'm director of a newly formed company called Vanguard Visions Consulting, in order to try and utilise some of my e-learning and e-assessment and e-portfolio skills in a range of different ways. My background has been in education, in the adult vocational education and training sector, but also as a high school teacher many years ago, and I've been involved in a lot of staff development as well, so educational staff development. And what I'd like to do tonight is have some interactions and some sharing around how can you use an e-portfolio such as Mahara as a collaborative learning space. So I thought I might start off with a conversation about why is collaborative learning so important. So again, I'll get you to use the text chat to share why is collaborative learning important, and what I might also do is drop the mic and see if there's anybody in the audience who's got any feelings or thoughts around what is collaborative learning and why is it important. This is almost when you need the background music playing, so I can see teach each other, and the whole is much greater, where did it go, than the individual. Yeah, many heads are better than one. Who's been involved in collaborative learning opportunities before? So I'm thinking of mainly project kind of work, group type of work. Problems are easier to solve if you're part of a team. You get motivated by others and what others do and how they go about doing different things. You also have peer assessment. You get peer feedback when you're working together than just on your own. Yes, if you work with a good team, and I've been on a team with Sam before, Sam Mantha, and so yes, it's often a lot more fun and creative when you're doing it as part of a group rather than on your own. We're also we're good social learners. Humans are good social learners. They're good at watching what others do and then practicing that or asking questions about it, and then learning by observation and then practice. So collaborative learning is just a part of natural way of learning for a lot of us. And as Meg said there, in the workplace we just do it all of the time, and that's why working as a team or working with teams is such an important skill and often written into job applications. So Johnson & Johnson have done some work around collaborative learning communities, and the research that they found around it is there's a lot of that stuff we were talking about through the text chat, about this positive interdependence, where when people work together, and it's a bit like a team sport. I often think about it when I think of interdependence as a team. You actually have to function together, you have to rely on each other, you have to trust each other, so that interdependence that you have with each other actually creates a really good positive feeling. Usually what happens is people in the collaborative group have to be accountable, so they have to actually demonstrate something or contribute something in some way, and so you've got individual accountability. There's an opportunity to promote the different things that you do as an individual, but also within wider networks and groups. So there's an opportunity through your interaction to be very promotive. You're using a lot of social skills, so it's good for developing social skills, refining social skills, and it's also in terms of group processing. So it's good for learners, but it's also good for mentoring and being part of the group. Sometimes, I'm just having a look at the text chat here. Tricia said, sometimes not well in the workplace, done well in the workplace, I'm assuming, which is another reason why it's good to teach these skills when people are learning. And that's right, and we do tend to do a lot of individual assessments and assignments, and there's very good reasons why we do that, but there's actually a lot of power and a lot of learning going on when we do it in collaboration with others, and it's a shame we can't get to do more of them. So if the premise is then, I'm struggling with this PDF file, if the premise is that an ePortfolio is a personal learning space, why do you think it might be useful to be able to use a space like Mahara as a collaborative learning space? And again, I'll get you to put it in the text chat, but I'd be interested if anybody's keen to contribute, just to stick your hand up, and I might just put yours down, Ziggy. So put your hand up if you want to take the mic, or I'm going to turn the mic off anyway, so you can jump in. So, why is something like Mahara, and hopefully you've seen Mahara, because if you haven't, then it's a hard question to answer. But if you've worked in Mahara, why do you think it might be useful to use an ePortfolio space like Mahara as a collaborative space as well as just a personal? So yes, if you do know Mahara, as Ziggy knows very well, the group space in Mahara is actually really, really powerful. Probably quite simple in its structure, and I'll show you what it looks like, but it's a really powerful way of helping people to digitally have some collaborative learning as sort of a central space. Has anybody else got any comments or questions about that question or that comment? Okay, so this is my theory, and I've been testing out this theory of Mahara as a collaborative learning space for the last 5 months, and as the story will unfold, I'm planning on testing it out a little bit further in the coming future too. But the beauty of using something like an ePortfolio that's interactive and social like Mahara is that you have an opportunity to have an individual space which you can switch on and off and use how you like, but you also have an opportunity to use that within a group or contribute to things within a group, or you can also go public. So you can have sort of very quiet, you could have group kind of spaces, or you can have the whole world kind of space. So it's a really interesting way of reusing and repurposing information. Rather than having to set up different spaces for different purposes, you can have all of it all in the one spot. And for me, the ePortfolio as a personal online space, that reuse and repurpose is a key to its effectiveness. So I only upload artifacts or information once, but I can use them in so many different ways. And as Ziggy pointed out in the text chat, that it reflects the sense of community, because you can actually share things and do similar things as you would if you were face to face with each other. And then as part of this kind of testing out theory that I'm doing, is I believe it will also create alumni or professional networks if you leave the students or the individuals within the group spaces in the ePortfolio space. So if they're left to use the group and their contacts within the group beyond the formal arrangement that you have with them, there's an opportunity for professional networks to keep on building and growing and supporting each other. So I thought I would share the story about how we've been using the ePortfolio Mahara as a collaborative learning space. Oop, there we go. So as one of my other hats that I have is part of what in Australia they call the National Vocational Education and Training e-learning strategy, so the National VET strategy. So if you're not from Australia, it's not about cats and dogs. The vocational education and training sectors like further education in some countries, but it's adult education. And as part of the National VET e-learning strategy, there's 3 key goals. Trying to support the rollout of a national broadband network to enable more people to have better connectivity through the internet. But we also have issues in Australia around workforce development and access and participation, especially around areas that what we call skill shortages. So we have people who are unemployed and underemployed, and we have jobs, but we don't have a match between the unemployed and the jobs that are vacant. And so there's a lot of work that still needs to be done around upskilling people who are currently in the workforce, as well as trying to engage and draw back to the workplace as well as into learning those people who may not have traditionally been in employment for a long time or in learning for a long time. And as part of that program, the 3rd goal there's one around learner pathways, and that's the one I've been involved in. But in particular, the project we've been looking at is around how e-learning programs can actually support higher qualifications. So how can somebody use technology in different ways to enable them to get higher qualifications? And so the project people we've been working with 8 organisations within Australia, from Aged Care and Community Services in Tasmania as an industry skills board, and the New South Wales State Emergency Service, who's a community organisation supporting state emergency services, as well as a number of training organisations across Australia. And what they've been aiming to do is not only help the learners get a qualification at a diploma level or higher, but they're actually able to use that diploma to move on to a higher qualification. So we've got the people looking at getting a diploma in building construction, then going on to trying to get a bachelor in the area of construction. We've got people from drugs and other what's the other one? Alcohol and other drugs, social workers, how they might use their diploma to actually get better employment outcomes. So we're working with this group, and the beauty of working with this group of organisations or 8 project leaders is part of these 8 programs, 5 of them are actually using an ePortfolio to test out how ePortfolio enables a learner along their different pathways. Yes, and sorry, I'm talking away, I'm not looking at the text chat enough. I have had a number of communications with Don before. He's done some presentations for our community of practice, and I do keep a keen eye on the work that he does there, because, career development and ePortfolio is so important. And one of them is really interesting is the TAFE New South Wales Western Institute, which is the bottom right organisation, is currently working with Charles Sturt University in seeing how, if they use the same ePortfolio, and they're using the PebblePad ePortfolio, if the learners are using the same ePortfolio to manage their own information, moving from the vocational course to the higher ed course, whether that actually provides a better and smoother pathway for the learner because their own learning information looks the same. They don't have to learn new systems as they move from one space to another. So what we've done is we've worked with the 8 project leaders over the last 5 months to see how that we can use collaborative learning to support their learning. So of the 8 project leaders, they are responsible for ensuring the project outcomes. And often these people are educators. They're not necessarily project managers, but they need to be project managers. So they learn lots in using, in their time as project leaders. Yes, I am using Mahara, and I'll show you Mahara in a quick way, very quickly where Mahara fits into all of this. But so what we've done then is try to demonstrate or model for these project leaders what it means to help learner pathways. So the project leaders themselves will be learners as they take on these new projects, and then what do they have to do to make sure they understand what it means to have a culture of ongoing development. So we've done this around a number of ways. We've had monthly meetings, we've had online activities, we use Mahara as the group space, and what we're aiming to see that there's benefits for the individual project leaders, that the benefit for the whole group as the 8 leaders working together with myself, with higher qualification pathways, how technology works well with that, how the vocational education and training sector might work well with that. We're also keen on using Mahara and this process to help the leaders gather evidence about themselves using the ePortfolio, so that they can use that for their own recognition of prior learning, for different units of competence, as well as for reporting, or perhaps it might be for future grant funding. And as trying to create that community, it was important that we trusted each other, and that whatever went on in the groups stayed within the group unless it was okay to be released. Some of you may know my colleague Carol McCulloch. Carol's a fabulous e-mentor and has been in a number of sessions over the weekend, and she's been a fabulous e-mentor for our group. She's helped them understand Mahara, use Mahara. A number of our teams use Mahara themselves. Some of them are using PebblePad, so they've had to learn to use PebblePad and Mahara at the same time. That's been very challenging, and some of them have quite low digital literacy skills. So Mahara has been a big challenge for them as a community space. We've been using the eSkills Mahara as the group sort of space for people to be sharing information, and so we used the group functionality, which is fabulous. And I do believe perhaps it's probably one of the better key features of Mahara is the group space in there. We've used the forum space as a place to try to bring all the information together. So we're aiming to help these project leaders share with each other in terms of their collaboration, but also we were keen to make sure that if they needed to draw on any of the evidence of their learning or participation in this project, that they could find it easily, and also relieve them in this group once we finished the projects, and that if they wanted to come back and share and continue the conversations, they could. So we've used it in terms of building, getting to know each other, any kind of discussions, how to use Mahara, and in particular about how do you, what progress their projects are. I might just stop there and just see if there's any comments or questions before I go on, since I feel like I've talked for a fair bit of time. So Carol and I, before we did this project, we're quite competent Mahara users as individual users, not so much as group leaders, and so this has been quite an experiential learning experience for Carol and I, and we're still learning, but we do feel that this is a really good opportunity to keep people together. We were able to allow the participants to share files, we share files, so all of the PowerPoints that we use in the online meetings get shared together. If people develop really interesting tools and activities or documents that they share with the group through online meetings or the forums, they can upload them here. So there's a nice space for people to share lots of different stuff in there. And what we've also done, trying to model the culture of ongoing development, is put information in the group about how these project leaders can start to get recognition of prior learning, so an assessment of their learning from this experience to get recognition for a couple of units, one within the Diploma of Vocational Education and Training and one within the Vocational Graduate Certificate in Community Services. Carol, in her wisdom, after our project leaders, some of our project leaders having some difficulty understanding Mahara and working their way around Mahara, Carol developed a Mahara Safari as a page and then shared that view, and that view is now public, so other people can do that. And I had a quick conversation with Carol today. It looks like she's going to take that further in terms of doing a Mahara Safari, so getting people's skills there. Can we, yeah, I'm not sure how, let me just see if I can pull that link down straight off this PowerPoint. Let me just grab it off of here. So hopefully that comes up okay. And so I mean, it'd be lovely if you could export these. I think you can export them as pages, and then people take them away and just import them into their own Mahara sites. But Carol's very clever in terms of how she can quickly pull something together. We were also in the space of trying to do of reuse and repurpose. So this is what we were trying to test Mahara out. So here's your personal private space that you can use to do your journaling, to upload information about your project, to keep the project leaders learning in one space. Not only to do that, but to share that with the group using Mahara. We're also keen to see whether or not we could create a collection of these people's pages as our public web page. Oh, good, the link works. Hopefully this link works too. Let me see if I can grab that one easily too. I think we've got 6 out of the 8 projects up. Where am I again? We're still waiting for, no, I didn't, sorry. Let me just grab that one again. So we've got 6 of the 8 projects live on the shared space. As I said, it was quite a challenge for some people to do that, but what it also did, by helping people to share what they were doing and coming together regularly, so having that interdependence and that individual accountability, actually made really gave creative spirit to other people. So I had emails from project leaders saying, oh my God, that was, what they're doing in that project is so great. I'm inspired to go off and do that in mine. So that collaborativeness made a big difference in how they were interacting with their project than if they were left to just do it on their own. I think that the community is, based all across Australia. Australia is a massive place, that these people wouldn't be able to network in a face-to-face environment or on a regular basis, but through these projects I think that they've built a collegialship and a professional network that they can continue to do that. What kind of resistance did you meet? Meg, can I just give me some detail about what you mean? To the idea of portfolios. Now, this is the interesting part, I suppose, of this project, in that 5 out of the 8 projects were using ePortfolios themselves. So they were open and to the concept of an ePortfolio, not necessarily a whole new system. So some of them were using PebblePad, some of them were about to start to use PebblePad. So some of them were in the ePortfolio space, they weren't in the Mahara space. Some of them, were keen to use ePortfolios. Another group actually are using Wikispaces as their ePortfolio, but they hadn't tested it out before, so this was an opportunity to test it out. There were some carrots as well, in that these people were project leaders, so they were getting funding to do this project, and part of the carrot was that they had to do certain activities in order to get their milestone payments. So the other part of it is, I think sometimes it's who you might have in your group, and the keenness and eagerness to want to share with each other. It depends on who you might get in your group. So we had a couple of people who were very willing to share and also put things up and ask for feedback, which I think is really incredible when people didn't know each other very well prior to coming together in January. So I'm hoping some of it's about that community that Carol and I tried to create, that the sharing was actually beneficial for everybody, that it was going to be shared in a closed private space, and that people had to ask if they were going to go off and use things or share it with the wider community, and so that trust has been so important. And some people are just really good sharers. So they weren't resistant to the ePortfolio, they were kind of resistant to developing the new skills needed to drive themselves around Mahara. So we were quite lucky in that way. I haven't been game enough I haven't given you slides for each of these projects, and I'm kind of not game enough to do some of the web sharing. I probably should. I don't know Adobe well enough, and I don't have the most reliable internet, so I apologise for that. The other part, Meg, in terms of you saying some people hate recording that kind of data, these people applied for project funds and knew that they would have to create a case study at the end of it. So collecting information along the way, I know, is really important, because that will make writing the case study at the end for them so much easier. And so that's why I encourage that process as well. But what we want to do, because that project actually winds up in June, which is a little bit sad. There's potential that we can get them stage 2 funding, and that they will continue on. Whether they'll continue on in the same methodology is yet to be decided. But through my new business, through the Vanguard Visions business, I've tried to do this. I want to do this model with a range of different learning spaces. And so we've created a Mahara, we've created the digital capability building community Mahara, and we're keen to use that in a range of different ways. So what we'd like to do, what we've recognised in terms of being a part of e-learning for a number of years now, we're still coming up against educators and other people whose digital literacy and digital capability is still quite low. Some of it is more around confidence than skill, and that there's still a lot of scope, especially in education, to upskill people around using technology. And so we've developed the digital capability website for our own projects that we'll be running. So we'll be running a project out of Queensland about helping training organisations use the internet better to make sure that they get the best out of the increased broadband that they're going to get in the coming years, so that they understand how to represent themselves online more effectively, how to do business more effectively. So sort of wrap their business around, wrap digital capability around how their business functions. So we'll use it partly for our own project work that we're doing, but we also want to see that we can support a community that's keen to support the development of digital capability, and not only in education, but education is quite at my heart. It's a free to join space. So we've had it open for about 6 weeks, and we've got about 15 people who've come in and just registered themselves. We don't monitor what those people do. We just see that the community will build. So we're keen to, thank you Ziggy, we're keen to see how that goes. We do, as I said, want to build it around some of the project work that we're doing. So there'll be the digital capability community itself. So we want to build 4 institutions within it. One of them about a general sort of digital capability community. Some around ePortfolios, so people who are particularly interested in ePortfolios. Some of them will be organised groups through some of the work that we do, and some of it we hope to see happens quite organically. And I know that that's possible. I have managed the eSkills Mahara space for the last 4 years, so I know that some of this can happen quite organically. The National Broadband Network work that we're doing, what does it mean for businesses and training organisations to be NBN ready, so that they use the best out of the internet when they get it. And we're also interested in seeing if we can affect how people look at education. Some of the work we do through the ePortfolios work, we hear a lot that it's not necessarily that teachers or educators are against ePortfolios. It's just that a number of educators actually struggle with the concept of being learner-centred. And I know, Ziggy, you were saying in your presentation that Moodle's kind of the space where the teacher or the educator has control, and Mahara is actually where the learner has control. And for a lot of educators, that's a huge philosophical and psychological shift to give control to learners. And so we're hoping to do some work around that and work with others in how you might support through professional development activities that paradigm shift that needs, that educators need to go through. I'm wondering if anybody else is having that experience with people in that resistance you were thinking about before, Megan. Is anybody else coming across that the concept of an ePortfolio can be quite challenging for educators? So please feel free to use the mic. I know it can be hard if you're new to that. So Georgina, you're going to say something. I didn't know you were in the room, so lovely to see you in here. So Georgina, do you want to share something about that paradigm shift that we're trying to help educate? Do you have a mic? I don't know. Meg, do people have a mic? Can anybody grab the mic? It should be up the top, Georgina. Mine was up the top, very top bit. There's sort of a microphone up there, and you just have to click the mute button.
Some attendees don't actually have the...
Meg, do we have mics? I'm sorry, a bit lost here. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Attendees don't have it automatically assigned to them, but I can give her the rights to a mic if you want.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so that's okay. I'm used to you working in a space where people automatically have that. So look, please put your hand up. But Georgina, if you can give Georgina a mic, that would be fabulous. And if anybody else would like a mic, please put your hand up, because I didn't realise that was an option in Adobe Connect. Any luck, Georgina? Can I do it from here, maybe? I don't know. Can you get a mic? No. Settings, I don't know. Did that mic come through at all? Do you want to give me a tick or a no, Georgina, if you've got the mic?
Oh, yes, we're nearly there.
Oh, sorry, I can't see it right. Okay. While we're just getting the technology to sort of come together, I like Trish's comment in terms of managers. Oh, now everybody's got a mic, have they?
Yeah, up the top you'll see a mic button, and just click on that so it turns green, and then you'll be able to
Hi, Alison, can you hear me?
talk.
Yes, I can, George.
All right. Shall I go ahead then?
Yes, please.
Hi. Yeah. I think it's always an issue for teachers to lose control, because things can get chaotic. It's a risk you take, I think, with any session. Like when you give me the mic. But I think that if you're a good facilitator of learning, then you can make that work for you, and that's the wonderful thing about giving students a more driving force and giving them a sense of control over their own learning is a very empowering thing, and I think it can only benefit and enhance what's happening in your course as a teacher or facilitator.
Thanks, Georgina. And it is important that we do give them some control, because the world's changing. The world's changing dramatically, and it's changed dramatically in my lifetime. And if you don't have lifelong learning skills, so if you can't manage your own learning, and you don't learn that when you're at school or in some form of education, then you can really struggle when things change quickly, and you no longer have the current skills. And how do you actually get them quickly? So we need people to have lifelong learning skills, and they only really get that if they start to manage their own learning in their educational spaces. Trish, do you want to address your comment about managers, with private space on the web? Fear? Apologies, Trish, if I put you on the spot there. So, sorry, go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, apologies if my children, husband walk through, say something inappropriate. Hope it doesn't happen. Anyway, look, my issues are around the, and I've raised it in several forums, so I won't go into it greatly. It's just around the fact that because as an ePortfolio they can upload whatever they want, they can publish whatever they want as a government organisation, and it would be going on a .gov site, then I have to balance the issues of responsibility and control if that goes out publicly. So both the privacy issues, because government have a really big just recently several of the southern state governments were audited on their ability to control private information, and you get really slammed as a government organisation if you allow people's private information to go out there. And the nurses in our agency would like to use it to put their portfolio on, which also means like their CV with all of their private details on it, and we're struggling with those issues. What I've come up with in previous things is I'll just have to get a customisation made to block some of that access for them to share and some of the access for them to pull stuff up and publish it in a public way.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma, and you know, lots of organisations are trying to deal with that. But my feeling is, if we're not supporting learners understand, or you know, supporting other professionals understand what is sharing appropriate information online looks like. Like if we're not doing it when we've got them in educational senses, when are they getting that opportunity to learn it? And so there's opportunities to have conversations about privacy. The community itself is good at regulating how things should happen. So Mahara's got the report objection on material button on it. Now we've had an open ePortfolios space since 2008, 2009, and in that time I've never had anybody press that button. So it's a shame that we have to try and create these spaces for the 0.01% of the population that might do something wrong, when really we should be nurturing and developing their skills online. Stephen Cork, do you want to ask any questions or address your point about you know, where the control is when you're using an organisational ePortfolio? So Stephen, you're able to use your mic okay? So Stephen's comment back there is something, let me go back there, sorry, because I'll probably not paraphrase it properly. Is the student in control if they have to use the training organisation ePortfolio? It's a very good question. The short answer is no. Well, yes and no. In that they are given a certain amount of control, but wrapped around key purposes. So even when I talk about this with teachers and educators, I talk to them about what identity are you going to put in this space? So we all have different identities. So, you know, right now I've got my Vanguard Vision identity on. Just beforehand I was with my family, so I had my mum and daughter identity. You know, I was with friends, so I've got my friends. So I have all of these identities, and I make specific choices as to which identity I put into my ePortfolio, and for me it's my professional identity that I put in there. And so you need to have these conversations with individuals who use your space. No, you don't want them, you know, doing inappropriate things. What we have had in the eSkills Mahara over probably the last 6 months is we've had a lot of payday loan people, you know, online loans. It's been quite interesting. So they're not aggressive, but they just pop up every now and then, and every day somebody wants to register on the space, and basically they just want a free web space, I think. And I've kind of said, no, we don't support that kind of business. So I've tried to shape it around it and create the expectations about what the space are. But so no, they won't have total control, but look, nobody has total control online. Anywhere. You don't even have total control in your own organisation. So you have to have levels of control, and we're hoping that they get the right kind of control in terms of guidance and the best way of using it. Anybody else got any comments or questions before we move on? So what I'd like to do, and I can see we're coming to the end of the hour, is just to see if I could draw out a few the group, because I'm a strong believer that when people like yourselves come together, that we've got, that power of the group we talked about earlier on, that there's a lot of really good information and good ideas that can come out of a group like what we've got this evening or this morning or this afternoon, wherever you are. I'm just wondering, how do you think we can best utilise this digital capability space for collaborative learning? Has anybody used this space for collaborative groups before? So if there's somewhere in the text chat, if you want to stick your hand up and have a go at the mic, and just, how might we use ePortfolios for collaborative learning? Yep. So think about your own organisations, your own students. How might you use an ePortfolio for collaborative learning? And Trish's comment about workforce being very diverse, that's typical of a lot of our classrooms, groups of learners, colleagues, whoever it might be, the project leaders that I look after, that we live in a very diverse world, and so how do we use things like ePortfolios to actually help people learn from each other and share? So project-based learning is a fabulous way of doing it, and you've done Siggy has some good examples in the session she did earlier. How to just even getting people engaged in initially in an ePortfolio space around demonstrating things about themselves, sharing ideas wherever possible. I think we need to go into what they call the co-optition stage. I might have heard of that before, where we do at times need to be in a competitive environment with one another in terms of the services or goods that we supply, but when we go into the cooperative space and the collaborative space, we can actually get so much more from it. So look, if you can get some sharing amongst your colleagues, amongst your learners, it's fabulous. Agreeing on a common goal, so coming up like a community of practice. So Samantha's got, coming up with a common goal. That's where good community practices start from, where there's a common need to actually achieve something, and then using something like the group space in Mahara to do that. Remembering at the same time what you're collecting and sharing there, you've got as part of your own ePortfolio, and therefore you can reuse and repurpose at any time. The peer assessment is a really hairy one, because we all know it's fabulous, but we also know it's a lot of hard work, because you have to help learners understand what it means to be a peer assessor, and how do moderators or auditors deal with things like peer assessment. But we know that they're so important in terms of people's skills within the workplace or within society. Create pages for learning languages. So that sounds like an interesting one. I'd love to see Ellen Marie Murphy's her examples of how you use them, like digital newspapers, so where they share their own pages all within a page, so that you can have regularly updated information. Yep, so look, in the health sector there's huge opportunities for communities of practice, and especially in private spaces that aren't being data mined, like your Googles and your Facebooks and so forth, where a lot of their information, even if it isn't a private group, will still be data mined. People need to come together and share the good parts of their lives and the not so good parts of their lives to learn from there. The Mahara cookbook is really important. Really important. It's a good resource. I haven't seen it yet, so I need to obviously buy one of them, because I think I might have found the Mahara group so much easier if I had read that one. So I better get a copy. So can I just see if there's any other people who want to add anything through the microphone around how we can use ePortfolios as collaborative learning space? So what I thought I might do is just be quite like, shamelessly, is that the word? Do a little bit of plug for some of the other work that we do around ePortfolios. So there is they call it the VET ePortfolio Community of Practice. It's mainly because it was come out of project funds for the vocational education and training sector. But when you look at who's part of that community, it's not VET centric. It's actually about learning and sharing how to use ePortfolios for different reasons and different purposes. So the epcop.net.au site's got lots of information and resources and events on there, and they have the community group as well. The Google group, the conversations group, where you can post questions or comments, up and coming events. I should have in there too. Carol's also been quite active. I'll see if I can put it down quickly. Quite active in terms of using Facebook as a good way of sharing information amongst the community. So I'm just going to quickly pull that one down. So she's got an ePortfolio community practice space in Facebook. That would be lovely if you could join and share all the great practice that you're doing, or find out about with ePortfolios. Ooh, might have to come and have a look what you've got there, so give me a sec. Carol also headed up a group last year around, they called it the Massive Open Online Course, the ePortfolio Massive Open Online Course. They ran it for about 6 weeks last year, where all the resources are all available under Creative Commons, so anybody can use them, and there's some excellent resources there about how you can create your own ePortfolio and use that. So if you're new to ePortfolios, that might be a really good resource. So that's sites.google.com/sites epcop learn space. Does that won't hyper? Oh, it does hyperlink if you click on there. Oh, that's a bit clever. And just the other big community of practice we have here in Australia, and this is building each year, is our national conference in September. We're still also trying to create it as a professional association, because we can see the growing need for supporting each other in terms of ePortfolios, and just let you know that registrations are open, so if you're interested and able to come, it would be fabulous, and we can continue to have ePortfolio conversations in September. So I'm just see if there's any last comments or questions. It's lovely that people are doing the sharing. There's the collaborative stuff happening in the forum there, with that fabulous curated space around Mahara ePortfolio that Siggy does as a scooper. It's certainly worth keeping an eye out for those spaces. Carol McCulloch does one too. And then Siggy, can I get you to tell us a little bit about the Scottish NHS link that you've done there? Hey, Siggy, the web link that you've just shared with us, is that a Mahara space, or is that a professional association using ePortfolios for nursing? We'll have to investigate it. So, yeah. Okay, so we'll have to have a look to see what's happening there. But we've seen that here in Australia in the last 18 months, where professional competencies, there's mandated continuing professional development, and so people are looking at the ePortfolio. A number of organisations and professional associations are using ePortfolios to help manage that, which is great to see. So thank you so much for this evening. Sorry I didn't realise that you didn't have microphones there before, and we didn't get to have much of a audio conversation, but the text has been fabulous and lots of contributions gone in there. Look, if you're interested in starting your own ePortfolio and you don't know where, please feel free to come and do it at thedigitalcapability.com.au. We won't be annoying you. You can just work in there as you need to. And also very interested in any ePortfolio stories, conversations, so get in there and share them as well. So Meg, do I hand it back to
No, thank you very much, Alison. On behalf of the iMoot team, we'd like to thank you very much for that. Of course, you now have me thinking I should use Mahara to create a online portfolio of all my family's awesome recipes. So if I ever get that off the ground, you're all to blame. But thank you very much, Alison. And yeah, I've turned the mics off again now. But yeah, if there's any other questions, we'll leave the room open for just a little bit. If you want to throw them at Alison in the chat. And there's some good links there as well. Just remember, this one will be recorded, so if you want to come back and have a look at some of those links that were posted, you can come back to the session anytime. Thank you.
Can I just quickly also say that there's the course has got the information. I forgot to say that before. The course has got the slides and the links and stuff in there too.
Yes, we'll do.
So thank you, Meg, for your support too, and for Julian and Leonie helping me get the PowerPoint finally together.
No, it would have to be the first one I come in for that there's a problem, wouldn't there? But no, that's fine.